for people who are unfamiliar with you, please tell us your name, what your background is, and really what you've been doing for the last several years.
So my name is Maryn McKenna. I am a journalist, and my specialty as a journalist is what I think of as public health and global health and food policy. And my big project for the last couple of years has been an investigation into how we use antibiotics in raising the meat that we eat every day, how we got into that situation, which is a terrible misuse of antibiotics, and how we're going to find our way back out again. And that investigation culminated in a book called Big Chicken, which was released in 2017 and is coming out in paperback this year.
What is your book about, Big Chicken, the incredible story of how antibiotics created modern agriculture and changed the way the world eats?
So a lot of people don't know this, but most meat animals raised on the planet get doses of antibiotics on most of the days of their lives. And they don't get those antibiotics because the animals are sick. If they were sick, it would be perfectly okay to use antibiotics on them. That's the way we use antibiotics in human beings. Instead, meat animals get antibiotics either to make them grow faster, because the drugs have an effect on what we'd call their gut microbiome, or they get them to protect them against diseases of crowding in barns and feedlots. This seems like a good thing because it allows us to raise meat animals more quickly and less expensively. But the problem is that it also creates antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And antibiotic resistance is considered by the World Health Organization and the major national health agencies around the world as one of the most profound threats to human health in this century. And so without knowing it, for decades now, since the 1950s, we have been courting this profound human health threat in the service of making our meat cheaper and easier to produce.
Do you eat chicken? And what are the health consequences of eating it these days?
I actually am a meat eater myself. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this investigation and write this book is I felt that as someone who eats meat, I am entitled to ask questions about how the meat I eat is produced, what kind of lives the animals have, what kind of environmental impact farming has, and also what unsuspected health threats, such as antibiotic resistance, exist because of the meat that I might be eating. And I came out of this investigation and out of writing this book still eating meat. In fact, the first and last scenes of the book are scenes of me stuffing my face with delicious farm-raised chicken from a couple of different places. But I came out of it with a completely different understanding about the unsuspected, unseen costs of meat production. As a result, for the most part now, when I can, I buy meat from smaller producers because I think they need my support more. And I'm absolutely committed to buying meat that is raised without routine antibiotic use. As it happens, that's getting easier all the time, even from really big producers, because consumers have spoken and have told meat production that they want antibiotics out of that process, and the industry is responding.
If people have been eating chicken for a long time, and many people are in their 80s and 90s, doesn't that mean chicken is okay to eat?
So this is a complex process, so let me unpack it a little. The way that we give antibiotics to animals is that we feed them tiny doses that are far too small to cure an infection. Those antibiotics that are consumed go into their guts, and there's a community of bacteria that lives in the guts of us and every warm-blooded thing. Those antibiotics affect the bacteria in such a way that they either cause them to be resistant or turn the whole population of bacteria more toward resistance. Then those resistant bacteria leave the animal in a couple of different ways. One is, we're talking about gut contents. So when the animals poop, when they produce manure on a farm, that manure is loaded with antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And it can leave the farm in storm runoff, through groundwater, dust on the wind, on the feet of insects and rodents, and then the resistance DNA contained in those bacteria enters the environment and passes into other bacteria. The other way that those bacteria can leave the farm is on the meat of the animals as they're slaughtered and get turned into meat, get packaged up in styrofoam and sent to stores. If you happen to have a piece of meat that contains those antibiotic-resistant bacteria on its surface, and you don't cook it with the precision of a microbiology lab, you are likely to get an antibiotic-resistant foodborne illness like E. coli or salmonella or something like that. Those illnesses make hundreds of thousands of people sick in the United States every year. If you're a meat eater and you haven't had that kind of illness, you're very fortunate. But you're at risk, even if you don't eat meat, because of that other transport of resistant bacteria away from farms into the environment, carrying that resistance DNA that then propagates into other bacteria. So it's possible that someone could unknowingly be at risk from an infection that originated on a farm, even if they never went near that farm or never even ate meat at all.